Brutal.
character.
Cool. Yeah.
I love to watch the Europeans come over for the week, and the first 3 days they're bouncing 12 feet in the air with their 8 million pound springs, and they finally rig because they have nowhere they can't run soft springs. That's like not manly, and so they come over and they finally have to soften it up to get around Sebring. And there's a lot of funny. Sebring's one of the places that the only place I know of that you can make a shock change to go 2 seconds faster. Everywhere else is like more of a comfort thing than anything else, a little bit faster, but more of a comfort and a raceability than it is of actual lap time. And so it's a pretty special place. Like I said, normally I don't like flat tracks, but when it's bumpy, it's got some character to it and some challenge.
That's a good way to look at it. I've been on those bumpy tracks before back when I was go-karting. I've karted in the past at some local road courses, and yeah, it can be very bumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a go-kart when he started off. The guy that built him had part of the chassis was two pieces like this that didn't touch and had a clamp on there. He says, leave the clamp on for how stiff you want the chassis for the bumps. So, okay, leave it on everywhere. Went up north somewhere to a national, and he was getting killed coming off this slow, bumpy turn. I'll take that thing off. It woke it up and gone after that. So, it's obviously, it's got to be right to make it work. And the bumpier it is, the more difficult it is to get a car or whatever, anything set up to take advantage of it and keep the grip going, go through the corner. We used to have those old 993 Porsches. The suspension, the geometry wasn't great, so you couldn't run soft springs, or it'd be great over the bumps, but you'd be so slow, didn't have the grip rolling. And so we ended up making them stiff, and relatively speaking, and the car would skip across the bumps. By the time it did touch the ground, it had so much more grip than the other way. It was faster than being soft and compliant. Then as Porsche continued the development from the 964s with a swing axle to the 993, 996, 997, 992, that geometry, once they went to that multi-link, they kept figuring out how to make it better and better and better. And now these new Porsches, the Cup cars, have no adjustable shocks. And we wish we could have got that set up back in the day. I mean, now you go, okay, I can make a fine-tuned adjustment, but for us back in the day, we had to make a lot of changes to get the car close to where it is today. So pretty nice.
For sure. A lot of luck is part of it as well. Did you see how Boris Said almost won Daytona in the Cup car back in 2006? Remember hearing about that?
I remember we almost won. We ran a Cup car. It was that was the GT car back in, I forget what year it was, when we ran. We finished third overall in a GT car when Buckler won, and we were going back and forth with the lead till we had the clutch slave cylinder a little sticky, so it cost a half-second a lap, and we dropped second. And then Johannes Van Overbeek ran over something in the morning and poked on the radio, changed that. Still third, but with Jack Lewis, we ran there. And the rules were you could run the wide body RSR, or you could run a Cup car with an uprated motor. So you have a more narrow body, same tires with more power. We killed them on Daytona. Anywhere else it wouldn't be as good. But yeah, Boris he's a good guy. He's a fast guy. He's won a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think he was within 3 laps of winning the race, and then he got passed by Tony Stewart, I think, with a few laps to go and finished fourth.
I thought you about Porsche Cup car. I did NASCAR. He got the pole one year. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he was the pole sitter and led 9 laps, I think, in that race in the No Fear car, SoBe-No Fear, I think it was. And then he was leading with like 3 or 2 laps to go, and Tony Stewart passed him coming to the white flag, and Boris went on to finish fourth. And he was so emotional afterwards and called it like a win.
Well, it really was. And next time you talk to Boris, ask him how he got the pole. I was at Watkins Glen for the NASCAR race. He was at Watkins Glen for the NASCAR race. It was my first time there, I think. And I had a road course car. I was kind of back. I think back then you had to qualify in the top 36. You're in 37 to 43, 42nd were on time. And Boris qualified on the front row second. And I was 36, 7, something like that. And he came by. We go way back, and he was gracious and gave me his setup. So here's what you'd be in the car. And we compared it to the springs and bars I had. And I'm like, guys, we need to go up on the bar. I said, I can't get the S's, and that would fix it. And they went up this much, and I need to go up that much. And so we just barely missed the show. I think it was 37 by a couple thousand. So I went home, and but Boris was on the front row that year. And so it was pretty cool to see that. And it's great to see his success in that. and talking to him about Daytona was really cool to see him get the pole, and then to finish fourth was a big deal in that world. Like I said, he did enough to really appreciate it, because on the road course back in the day, those guys weren't that good on road courses, and it was not as difficult to be in the field. He was always up front, so he made a name for himself. Now it's just gotten to the point where all those guys realize how much they've got to work at the road course. They're all fantastic now. Back in the day, it was probably 4 or 5 seconds between pole and 42nd. Now it's like less than a second. And so now, they said, oh, you got an advantage in the road course. He goes, no, I just don't have a disadvantage like the oval. He tells a story where he's following Ernie Irvin around on an oval somewhere, big fast track like a Michigan. And he's driving along. He's back there following. And it's great to hear Boris say this. I'm not telling you out of school, other than he said, there's Ernie ahead of him. He's just like white knuckle doing this corner and trying, because those cars are tough to get around the ovals. These guys are good. He said, as he was white knuckle, Ernie's in front of him, puts his hand out the window and gets a little scoop of air while he's driving one hand. Boris like, wow. So that's just being super comfortable on those ovals, doing it over and over and over. But Boris got pretty darn good at it.